Now, between both the George Stephanopoulos lawsuit happening right now over at ABC/Disney and all the other shenanigans happening with ABC, the ongoing ratings disaster continues to worsen, whether it's through The View, Good Morning America, Jimmy Kimmel Live, whatever program it may be, and how it's failing day in and day out is all because of their shenanigans just like this. Now, one thing in particular that we do know is that we know that talking heads out there like Sunny Hostin, Whoopi Goldberg, Joy Behar, and among others are not really making the situation any better at all as well. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. So one major aspect about all this that a lot of people are beginning to wake up to is the fact that we know that those out there like Sunny Hostin continue to spew out lies, continue to spew out all this garbage that does not really associate with anybody, nor does it resonate with anybody out there in the general public, and it's only digging themselves into a bigger hole at this point. However, what's really intriguing about all of this moving onwards is that one thing about Sunny Hostin is that we know that she doubles down on her overall agenda. She will never stop at that. She will continue to double down on that no matter what the cost is. And given that, like I said before, ABC is going through multiple lawsuits as we speak, Sunny Hostin just does not seem to care at all. But now it's come to a point where she is basically on the blame game train yet again toward actor George Clooney, based on exactly why they believe that they lost in 2024 and why they're pointing at everybody now, pretty much that was once on their side. Now, what's interesting about this is that, of course, with the entire media now collapsing since 6 weeks ago, one major network in particular involves ABC, which is run by Disney, that is now going through a ratings disaster still to this day. Now, recently, Sunny Hostin surprisingly attacked George Clooney yet again in the wake of the media collapse, where she delivered the following in a desperate move to save her image. It's 2024 now, and we are nearing 2025. And I think what we need to start doing in the next couple of years is that we need to start listening to women. I think the biggest mistake that we made this year, and with this year's cycle, is that we believed in this high-status stars like Mr. Clooney that really provided us the guidance that we could defeat the other side that believes in all these terrible things, like sexism and misogyny. The problem that we dealt and quite honestly, of course, had to deal with, a drastic mistake on our part, was trusting someone like Mr. Clooney just because he's a good-looking man that was in the top-tier movies. Going back, I think many of us feel misled right now based on how George really influenced the direction of this year's cycle and how he may have absolutely made it harder for us in 2028. What we need to do is to stop relying on these A-list stars, and I think that we need to start trusting the media more. This is the value that I think here, of course, like myself here on television, that I am eternally grateful for, because it's a blessing to pass on the truth to the people. The thing with George Clooney is that his opinion went too far and was too influential in the decision-making of this year's outcome. And I wholeheartedly agree with Whoopi on this, but we need to make, of course, many of these actors go to a place where they just shut up and close their mouths and leave it up to the members of the media that go by a series of rules that we need to accept. That's why people like me and Whoopi are far more trustworthy than these large-scale celebrities that are just using their fame to influence something else. And quite frankly, I'm disgusted with George's opinion that went viral, because it's now put us in this place, in this very dark place years ahead of us. We are going to have to deal with 4 years of bigotry because of actors like him that just want to get too involved in politics. That's why our program, The View, is a welcoming program full of trustworthy women. So guys, let me just stop here for one moment now. Again, this is another example of Sunny Hostin truly just going off the rails and really just pointing the finger at George Clooney. Now look, I'm not defending George Clooney by any means. In fact, I am a huge, critic of him. I am not a fan of the guy at all anymore, nor was I ever, to be honest. But the fact that we have people like Sunny Hostin turning their backs against George Clooney, and how they want nothing to do with him, and basically are pointing the finger at him now. Not only is it Sunny Hostin, it's Whoopi Goldberg, it's everybody else on The View, and this is the latest example of scapegoating that we have seen. again, we know that Sunny Hostin is just trying to shift the attention away from her and really trying to put all the attention on anybody else besides her. That's why she's basically saying, this is why, we lost in 2024. It wasn't just me. She was trying to basically move the attention away from her because she was getting blamed a lot as well for why they lost in 2024. Moving onwards. Now, on top of this, interestingly enough, alright, she goes on to continue, and I couldn't be more proud of that. Between George Clooney and Robert De Niro and so many of these voices that were so loud, it really put us in the wrong path. Had we kept things the way that they were in June, I really do believe that we would have, of course, because I just don't think Americans are ready for a woman to run the country. That's why we lost. They just weren't ready for that. And yet here we are, we lost because of one of the sins, vanity. We need to stop relying on those that hold vanity to use their voice in politics. It's time for change, and I'm hoping 2028 will truly provide us a new era that can finally be a fresh new start. I mean, I was even getting blamed for why we lost, and I thought that was ridiculous. So again, I mean, she's casting full blame on George Clooney again, which, look, I get it. George Clooney was very much a big deal as to why they lost in 2024. There's no doubt about that. But she's really trying to just essentially pretty much backtrack. She was once defending the guy, she was all for George Clooney, and now she's not. And I think that's the biggest reveal here. It's the fact that you have more and more people that want nothing to do, of course, with George Clooney that were once on their side. This includes Jimmy Kimmel, now Sunny Hostin, Joy Behar, Whoopi Goldberg, Bill Maher. We have a lot more to talk about Bill, because basically he's also snubbing him and refusing or not even allowing him to come on his show anymore. We'll have a lot more to talk about that in the coming weeks. But here's the kicker, is that we know that people like Joy Behar and Sunny Hostin, these people specifically don't want anything to do with anybody that actually led to the 2024 loss, alright? We know that everything related to Sunny Hostin at this point is that she really wants to look at the general public. She wants to point the finger at them like they are the reason that, of course, they lost, alright? She wants to point at everybody else in the grand scheme of things. And when you look at Sunny Hostin, we know that she's also really up in the air, right? We know that she has no clue what she's talking about. She's really much in a place where, at this point in time, you really have to wonder to yourself, why have they not fired her yet? Why have they not removed her from the view at this point? There have been conversations, absolutely, between Bob Iger, the Disney CEO, and the executives. That's a given. We've talked about that. But at the same exact time, we also know that Sunny Hostin just wants nothing to do with being the one to blame. Alright, we know that she also played a big role, but she wants to deny that. So interestingly enough, guys, I would love to hear what you all have to say about this below in the comments. Everything ranging from the George Clooney situation to Sunny Hostin to everything else, of course, happening on The View. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.